The village of Sleepy Hollow nestled in a valley, perpetually cloaked in mist, its winding paths illuminated only by flickering lanterns. On the surface, the town seemed serene, but whispers of an ancient terror haunted its every shadow. Each autumn, as the leaves turned to fiery hues, the legend returned with chilling vigor. The Headless Horseman, a spectral rider who emerged under the harvest moon, seeking a replacement for his severed head.
The first sight.
It began with the toll of the church bell, struck 12 times at midnight. A solitary traveller, a miller named Garrett, made his way home through the woods after a late night of gambling at the tavern. His lantern swung in his hand, its light cutting through the dense fog, casting eerie shadows on the gnarled trees. The first sound was faint, the rhythmic pounding of hooves. Garrett froze, his breath clouding in the frigid air. He turned, seeing nothing but darkness. Then, from the fog, a horse emerged. It was enormous, its black coat glistening like oil, its eyes burning crimson. On its back sat a rider, clad in tattered armor, a rusted sword glinting in the pale moonlight. Where the rider's head should have been was a jagged, bloody stump. Before Garrett could scream, the horseman surged forward, the sword cleaving through the air. Blood sprayed across the fallen leaves as Garrett's headless body crumpled to the ground.
The village in fear.
By morning, the villagers found the miller's corpse slumped against the church gate, his head nowhere to be seen. The cobblestones were stained crimson, and the air reeked of iron and decay. Panic rippled through Sleepy Hollow. The elders whispered of curses and restless spirits. The young scoffed, blaming highwaymen. But as more bodies appeared in the following nights, each decapitated, their faces frozen in terror, the skepticism waned. The horseman's attacks became more brutal. A farmer returning from the market was found in his cart, his oxen slaughtered, the wooden planks drenched in blood. A family, barricaded in their home, was discovered lifeless at dawn, the walls painted with violent slashes of crimson. The horseman left no survivors, and always, the heads were missing.
The scholar's descent.
Among the frightened townsfolk was Edgar Van Brunt, a scholar who had recently returned from university. Unlike the others, Edgar refused to cower. He pored over ancient texts, seeking the truth behind the legend. He learned of the horseman's origin, a Hessian soldier who had fought in a long-forgotten war. Beheaded by cannon fire, his body had been buried in the woods, but his soul had never rested. Bound by a curse, he rode under the harvest moon, hunting for a head to claim as his own. Edgar became obsessed, armed with nothing but his knowledge and a desperate resolve. He ventured into the woods on the eve of the next full moon, determined to end the horseman's reign of terror. The final ride. The fog thickened as Edgar approached the cursed ground. The trees stood like skeletal sentinels, their branches clawing at the sky. In the clearing, he found it a weathered grave marked with a crude stone. Before Edgar could act, the sound of hooves shattered the silence. The Headless Horseman emerged from the mist, more menacing than the tales had described. The air grew cold, and Edgar felt the weight of death pressing down on him. The horseman raised his sword, its blade glistening with spectral fire. Edgar dodged the first strike, narrowly avoiding the edge that had claimed so many lives. He thrust a silver-tipped spear into the horse's flank, but the beast didn't falter. It reared, knocking Edgar to the ground. The horseman dismounted, its armor clinking like chains. It towered over Edgar, raising its blade for the final blow. But Edgar, in a last act of defiance, hurled a vial of consecrated oil at the spectre. The liquid erupted in holy flames, igniting the horseman in a blaze of unearthly fire. The creature let out a bone-chilling scream as the flames consumed it. For a moment, Edgar thought he had won, but the horseman's form did not collapse. Instead, it burned brighter, its headless visage glowing with malevolent light.
The legacy of fear.
The villagers found Edgar's body at the edge of the woods, his head missing, his blood staining the earth. The horseman's legend grew stronger, his vengeance more terrifying. The curse remained unbroken, the spectre doomed to ride each harvest moon. Sleepy Hollow's streets emptied at night, its people too fearful to venture out. But deep in the forest, the pounding of hooves echoed, a grim reminder that some horrors could never be vanquished. The Headless Horseman was eternal, his thirst for vengeance unquenchable, his blade ever thirsty for blood.